first of all, I do want to say that there's nothing wrong with porn.
Welcome back to Uncomfortable Conversations. This is episode 11. We have another special episode for you guys today. Today we have our guest, Charlotte. Charlotte, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got established?
Absolutely. Again, thank you guys so much for having me. My name is Charlotte Bevers, and I'm a men's sex and relationship coach. And I kind of came into this work with just a passion and a desire to help men and give them this a safe space to do a lot of things that are kind of offered to women out in the world, which is to dive deep, to express themselves, to really explore their inner worlds and get to know themselves better, and to work within their own inner conflicts, and just to, a space to be able to be themselves, to learn more, and so that they can, you know, um, essentially, unearth all these complexities of what it means to be a human and to be a man, and give them the space to do that. So that's a little bit about me and what I do.
So, I mean, when people think about sex education, they typically think, it's either one way or the other. It's a very wide spectrum for a lot of people. How do you really describe your job to someone that's trying to understand what you do, and like how it actually goes down? How is it different from like therapy to like what about male sex education is different in your scope of work?
Um, it's a great question. So I am trained in from the Somatica Institute. So I take a somatic approach, which is slightly different than, well, it is different than therapy, as in we do a lot of talk therapy in session, but I also give you tools, and we actually dive into intimacy one-on-one while we're in session. So instead of just giving you tools and saying, okay, go out in the world and, work on this, we actually practice those in session, so that so that men can go out in the world and actually know what that feels like in their body, and what it sounds like,
Mm.
and all those components. And so it's not just like talking about something and then saying, okay, go out and do it. You get to actually in person practice what that looks like. You get to practice intimacy with yourself and myself.
Mm.
You get to practice connecting to your body and what that feels like, and what uncomfortable feelings and emotions feel like in your body, and also good things that feel, how that feels in your body. Um, and so we do a lot of that. That's kind of the difference between therapy.
Mm.
And as far as sex education, it's unfortunately we live in a world where sex education is not really helpful. The What we get told and taught is not really, you know, what is helpful when we grow up and become adults and get into relationships with other people.
Right.
So I help break that down, and actually unearth what intimacy really is and what connection really is, and then help men also address things around desire, and what what great sex is for them, and then and be able to empower them to go out there and live in that empowered place.
Right.
Um, yeah.
And sex itself seems to be a very uncomfortable conversation. I feel like a lot of people teach themselves, and they teach themselves the wrong things, and they learn from um, just unhealthy things that they watch, whether it's what they read or just from the internet and the way that it's evolved. So when you meet a client, and the people that you meet, what's the most common issue that you think men deal with?
That's another great question. Um, a lot of it, I guess a lot of problems that I come across is a lot of men watch porn. And so porn is easy for them to, visually see something and then get aroused. But if you take that porn away, it's really hard for them to actually sit in their body and create arousal on their own. So that's kind of a downside to porn, is it disconnects men from, well, men and women, but it disconnects a person from actually feeling into their body and what sensations are really happening and what else they like besides just the, here's a visual, or, here's what's happening, and that can instantly create arousal. And so there's a huge body mind disconnect there. So
Yeah, we actually, on one of our first episodes, we spoke on, the industry of porn and how men are easily addicted. And I mean, today's social media has evolved into that, and you can take it one way or the other. But how would you say porn is something you discuss a lot with your clients, and would you recommend them? Is it case by case where you say limit your consumption of it, or take it completely away? What would your advice be to, especially to, we have a lot of young audiences in high school and college, so porn is maybe a consistent daily hobby.
Habit.
So yeah, exactly. So what would you say how somebody could perceive that?
that's really good. First of all, I do want to say that there's nothing wrong with porn. As far as, it can be a great tool for learning certain things. But I would say it's a case by case basis on what I would say. I do think that there is, I think it's a positive thing because it allows someone to actually express what they do like. And in today's world, people are taught that their sexual desires and needs are expected to look and be a certain way.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of things like that that I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. There are all kinds of ways in which people feel desire, and there's no right or wrong way to that. And what your sexual needs and desires are actually come from childhood and the way that you grow up. And so we don't get to pick and choose those things. So for example, and I know it sounds kind of funny and weird, but there are people that, like to wear, women's underwear or something like that. Like that is something that can turn certain men or certain people on. And where people will be like, that's really strange. That's actually something that, again, that person doesn't get to choose. It comes from their childhood and their childhood wounds, and how that comes into play in a sexual realm. And so the part around porn is that I think there's something for everybody. And so it can be a positive way where you get to see, hey, I like this certain thing and I can search for it and find it. And you get to feel empowered around, that I feel normal in this way because I like this and I can look this up and find that. So I think there's something really wonderful around that. But I would have to say again, I think there's a huge body mind disconnect. So using porn all the time, or making that the only way that someone gets aroused or gets off, I would say isn't the healthiest thing to be doing.
Would you say how it's easily accessible? I mean, there's no way to verify your age
Right.
legally. So it does tie into developmental issues, and the earlier someone starts to consume it, the deeper their problems will be in the future if they do have sexual problems that they're trying to combat. What are your thoughts on like the way that it is structured and what like reform to make it verifiable age wise? Because I mean, you don't even need to be looking for it to see it nowadays. You could just be on Twitter and oh, someone that you followed liked something and now it's on your TO.
Right, absolutely. I'm not even sure if I know quite how to answer that, how to reform it. um, because that's a pretty loaded question there. I, I would say I do think that exploring different kinds of porn is important. So, and I think that's, I think people get stuck on like, Pornhub or, one place that they go and they know they can find certain things. But there's also women made porn and other sites that you can go to. And so I think finding kind of exploring all kinds if you're going to use porn and looking at it from different perspectives because men and women view porn so differently. And it's, often, in the training that I had, we talked about being like romantic comedies are essentially porn for women, because that's the story that we want. We want somebody to come and, we want to fall in love. And that's what, emotionally how women tend to get more attached and aroused. And that's part of it, whereas general porn typically doesn't for men. It takes some of the emotional pieces out of that. And it's just visual and erotic in that way. So I think just, because like I said, I'm not sure if I know how to reform it per se. I do think there probably should be a limit of as far as the age, probably 18. However, I don't know how to, how we would essentially
Yeah.
happen. And,
I saw like
so
an article in the UK where they were, I don't know if they went through with it, but they were trying to make it so that you'd have to put in your driver's license number or identification number, similar to if you're trying to buy alcohol online in the US, to be
that's
able to access those kind of sites.
Yeah.
that's definitely one way to regulate it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I had a question on, so a lot of your work has to do with male empowerment. Um, what, when you begin, with sessions with you, what, I mean, do the men you meet do you typically meet men that have a lot of toxic behaviors, see sex as more of a pleasure for themselves than the pleasure of, their partner? And how do you really create that dialogue to unlearn those behaviors? And how long are these behaviors? Sex is a very, it's a lifelong thing. So, sessions could be, is it months, could take up to years, to really unlearn and understand your physical capacity. I know it's a two-way question, so like take your time in answering that.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm trying to remember the first part of what you said
But
actually.
yeah, just like men, do you meet a lot of men in the first sessions or second sessions that are trying to unlearn a lot of these toxic behaviors where it's just about me, it's about me pleasuring myself, and not really caring about the physical needs of their partners? Are those issues that you find, or is it men that are completely in a different type of mindset?
A little bit of both. I think the men that I work with are already aware of that.
Mm,
So they are coming in from a place of, I struggle in this area, or do want to please their partners and do need maybe some help to understanding that. So there's kind of a little bit of both. But
right.
I haven't had so far. I haven't had anyone that comes in and it's just like it's all about me. I think usually there's some awareness because I think some awareness comes into play when someone is reaching out for help from me and with me. So I think that piece is already there. And as far as unlearning patterns, I think it's very individualized and, like like so many other patterns and behaviors that we all have as humans, it does take time, and it's not in, you know, a quick, easy fix. Typically, not that that can't happen, but I do think it usually takes, you know, weeks, months, or even years to really unlearn certain behaviors. And you know, since we all are taught so young around sex, and it is everywhere, whether you're looking for it or not, and all those subliminal messages that we get, um, specifically men too, or you know, from being you know, little boys and growing up,
Yeah.
it definitely takes a long time to um, let go of those messages and understand from a different place and from a more self-aware place, uh,
Right.
to
Right.
make these changes.
Yeah. Mom, do you have any
Um,
questions? Yeah.
when people come to you, and they have a problem, um, is it usually like what's the age demographic that you would say men start seeking help? And is it younger men that are willing to seek help, or is it usually when men tend to get older where they start dealing with these problems and start realizing like, yeah, I need help, and like putting the ego to aside? Because I feel like younger men have a stronger ego where they're like, no, I don't need help, and by the time they want to seek help, it's almost too late.
Right. That's a great question. Um, I would say my age range is probably from like 35 to 60. So I would definitely say um, older men. Not that 35 is old by any means, but it's I certainly don't see a lot of, you know, 20-something-year-olds, which I would hope is going to shift, or you know, hopefully doing, you know, the three of us and the work that we do, and just trying to reach younger
Right.
demographics and
Right.
to help, because it's so important. And the sooner you learn and can work around these issues, the better.
Right.
So
Just to how would people reach out to you? How can people get in touch? Is this more of like physical, like in-person sessions, or can people, you know, interact through virtual platforms? How you know, to our audience that are tuning in now, how would you say to get in touch with you if they're trying to unlearn and really empower themselves?
yeah, absolutely. I do virtual sessions, and people can reach out to me via email or my website. But my website is asatiliving.com. And
We'll
um,
be sure to put that in the description.
and they can also find me on Facebook or Instagram as well, just under my name, Charlotte Bevers.
Okay.
Um, and if anyone wants to reach out via DM, I'm happy to do that.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Jose, you have any more questions?
I think she covered all the.
Yeah. I mean, this obviously conversation can go for hours and hours, but we hope this could be a beginning of a, you know, collaboration. We always do get questions from our audiences after we publish our podcast, so we'll be sure to share that out to you. And we could also always come back with another episode. So we really appreciate you being here, Charlotte. You're also from Denver, is that
Yes, I live here in Denver, Colorado. So.
same? So we were all born and raised, actually from Denver. So
Oh, wonderful.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Awesome.
yeah. So yeah, you'll find a lot of people coming your way, especially in the community. So it all works out. So yeah, thank you so much. Really do appreciate you giving us your time and all your efforts. We really wish you the best in your career. Just one last thing, I forgot to ask: is there a lot of is it a very small industry, the sex education, or is it something that's growing over time with you know, all the understanding and awareness that is going on in the world?
I think it has been a really small community, and I do believe it is growing with the
Yeah,
changing times, which is really wonderful.
yeah,
So if it's not me or someone else, you know, that you may have heard of or whatever, there is a growing number of sex educators out there. So it's just about finding the right fit for you.
All right. Yeah. Mohammed, you want to finish it up?
Yep. Thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it. If you guys are new to the podcast and aren't subscribed, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. We're gonna leave Charlotte's details in the description. So if any of you guys need to get some help or like have any questions, make sure to check out her contacts and the details. Make sure you guys hit that like button, drop a comment down below, share this with someone you think will benefit from this, or just share this with people in general, because it's an uncomfortable conversation that you might not even know someone's going through it. They might need to hear this. But anyway, guys, we'll see you guys in the next episode. This was episode 11. Peace out.